And that being said, now I would like to, I'm sure you're being a perfect gentleman, you would not mind if I have Ms. Merav Cohen go before you. That's how the panel is listed. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's great to welcome you. Thank you so much, Merav. And she manages the Hazon Seal of Sustainability. And it was very interesting when I was talking to her briefly before I go like, okay, what are you going to focus on? She says, I'm going to look at so many different things. And knowing her, she's an attorney, and so she'll weave it beautifully. So over to you, Merav. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murthy, and thank you all for being here, for listening, for having this very important conversation. I am humbled to be here speaking in front of all of you today, especially with such distinguished panelists. So thank you. So as I'm the first speaker today, and we're talking about natural resources and health, I thought that I would allow just a very brief, I would say, placing the setting up for our conversation. So according to a UN report that came out just this year, since 1970, world population has doubled, and the global GDP has grown fourfold. So according to current trajectories of growth and development, we are expected to actually not meet our needs, human society's needs moving forward. If you're looking at 2050 and onwards, we are talking about an unsustainable future. This is very alarming. How can we actually decouple our economic growth, our development, the human society, decouple that from the environmental degradation that it has meant so far? I noticed that I did not keep an eye on my time.
That's
so
okay.
I will actually, all right.
But don't worry about that.
Now, natural resources, extraction of biomass, fossil fuels, metals, and non-metallic minerals, water and land use. All of these are imperative for our existence here. And as we use them abundantly, and as we waste them, we release toxins and we interfere the imbalance of our very fragile world. Now, all of these directly or indirectly impact all 17 sustainability development goals. And this is very important to understand. The developed world was built on cheap energy, cheap commodities. Well, none of these are cheap. A very good book that I highly recommend is called Environmental Debt by the author Amy Larkin. Energy is not cheap. Meat, dairy, eggs industries are not cheap in the way that they are currently conducted. The costs go low when someone or something is internalizing these costs. Goods are made with exploited cheap labor are cheaper. Gas extracted with disregard to environmental harm it causes is cheaper. So why do we internalize these costs? How can we safeguard our health and our future? Economics 101 says that when somebody owns the land, there is better chance for it to be safeguarded. Someone is going to think about the future. Well, who is safeguarding our natural resources? Our governments. My background is in law. I practiced law for about 3 years in one of Israel's top law firms. I then went on to live in China for a couple of years working on environmental policy with the Chinese Ministry of Environmental Protection. And this allowed me to get a broad perspective. And I would like to share some of my observations with you today. In China, we worked on a very unique project called the EU-China Environmental Governance Program. This is a program that allowed the Chinese government to collaborate with the European Union and learn from their experience and really make that governance and implementing measures to safeguard environmental governance moving forward. Now, what does that mean? That means corporate social responsibility, of course. But what I would like to bring into this conversation in the 3 minutes I have left is for all of us to really think and remember that corporate social responsibility cannot live in silos, right? Some of you are here with a corporate background. The corporate social responsibility conversation is usually focused very much so on how do we do it, what are the best metrics, how do we get more corporations involved. Well, I want to offer us to think about corporate social responsibility and corporate environmental responsibility in the bigger context, which is how can we as a people, how can we as corporations support our governments in making sound decisions for our future. Let's think about corporate social responsibility one level up. In my current role at Hazon, which is the Jewish Lab for Sustainability, I work with faith communities. There are over 3,500 Jewish synagogues in the United States alone, and according to 2010 research, there are over 350,000 communities of faith in the United States alone. Each and every one of these communities of faith is now powered by its people, considering how can we exercise not corporate social responsibility, but community social responsibility. What are our values? A lot of them are driven by faith. This is the work I'm doing right now. But what I'm trying to make you all think about is the role of corporate social responsibility, or even community social responsibility, in driving change and supporting sound government decisions moving forward. If corporate social responsibility can be setting a bar, it can also be, perhaps, dare I say, not interfere with government decisions that will safeguard our future. This is not very politically correct, but I think you would all know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that sometimes power rules. So corporate social responsibility in that respect would be allowing more accessible information for people to make their decisions, right? It would be allowing better access for the public with regard to environmental justice. It would be involving the public with environmental decision-making and planning. All of these will support corporate social responsibility, or would feed into corporate social responsibility in one way or form. Lastly, and I will end, thank you all for your patience and listening. Our health and the sustainability of the systems that nourish us on this beautiful earth will be safeguarded when we understand that we as the public have the ability to push and pressure corporations to take on their responsibilities, and at the same time to hold our governments accountable for their decision making. And that would hopefully result in better protection of our interests, sustaining human life and health in the future. Thank you all for listening.
My name is Merav Cohen. I currently work at Hazon, which is a Jewish environmental nonprofit working with organizations all over the country, making them more environmentally sustainable, aligning their faith values with their practices. And we see an incredible amount of potential working with faith communities. There are over 350,000 houses of faith in the United States alone, and that's a 2010 number. Each one of these communities is getting more and more interested in implementing sustainable practices within their communities, and that has a ripple effect outwards. I would call this a community social responsibility kind of project. similarly to corporate social responsibility, these have enormous potential to drive change. And we see these communities, again, as I mentioned, we have a potential of over 350,000 communities in the United States alone to drive change, demanding for better corporate practices. Corporate social responsibility cannot work in silo. That we would suffice if corporations would simply allow governments to govern well, to govern better. Governments are here to safeguard our health and our natural resources, and oftentimes these decisions are being intercepted by private interests and corporate interests. So when we're talking about corporate social responsibility, we need to remember the potential of the people, the public, to drive change. They can only do this if they have enough information. In my current role at Hazon, which is a Jewish environmental nonprofit, I manage a program in which Jewish communities all over the country are adopting sustainable practices, are making actual commitments year by year. It's not a particular bar you have to meet, but it's about improvement, considerable, long-lasting improvement. Like CSR, corporate social responsibility, I would call that community social responsibility. In our organization, we focus mainly on food, but we see these communities. There are over 3,500 Jewish communities in the United States alone. If you're talking about all houses of faith in the United States, it's over 350,000. That's incredible potential. Each of these communities is a hub for learning and for increasing awareness, and they ripple out into their communities. And each of these communities is implementing better practices inwards, but it also influences the people of that community to demand better practices from corporations, and that can drive change.